Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the Styrian Grand Prix race look ahead. And wow, what a qualifying session we had today. It genuinely looked at one point like we weren't going to get any qualifying at all thanks to all that heavy rain. And I was actually prepping a video ready for the postponement to be announced. But I am so glad they waited and sent the cars out, and for us fans, it was well worth that wait. Some of the driving we saw today, in fact no, most of the driving we saw today was absolutely incredible, and it really was Formula 1 at its exceptional best. I just cannot get over how good that was. Anyway, calm yourself Sean, similar format for this video as last week, so let's start by having a look at the full result from today's qualifying session. Lewis Hamilton set the fastest time and will start on pole position thanks to that 1:19.2, 1.2 seconds quicker than Max Verstappen in second. And look at Carlos Sainz there, right up in third place, just a tenth behind Max Verstappen. Valtteri Bottas was fourth in the second Mercedes, with Esteban Ocon up there in fifth place, and Lando Norris just behind him in sixth. Alexander Albon seventh in the Red Bull, eighth for Pierre Gasly and ninth for Daniel Ricciardo, but Sebastian Vettel 10th and Charles Leclerc 11th. In that final session, Vettel was 2.3 seconds slower than Lewis Hamilton. Worrying for Ferrari. George Russell there in 12th place. Fantastic day for him. Lance Stroll in 13th and Daniel Kvyat 14th. Then it's Kevin Magnussen in the first half, followed by Kimi Raikkonen, Sergio Perez, Nicholas Latifi and Antonio Giovinazzi, with Romain Grosjean starting last in the second half. No lap time on the board for him at all. A miserable day for Rogro thanks to a suspected water pump issue. Now I will give a few more of my thoughts about the session a little bit later in the video, but let's get all of the information and whatnot out of the way first. So this is how they will line up on the grid tomorrow. The usual caveat at this point that it is a provisional grid and so could easily change between now and the race tomorrow. And there are changes. Firstly, Lando Norris drops to 9th after he was handed a 3-place grid penalty for overtaking under yellow flags in practice. And also, at time of recording, Charles Leclerc is under investigation for allegedly crossing the control line after the red flag and for allegedly impeding Daniel Kvyat. So 2 investigations there for Leclerc. Kimi Raikkonen is also under investigation for the same control line infringement, and Sergio Perez too, but for allegedly not respecting the yellow flags. Now, as I record this audio, there has been no word on any decisions, frustratingly, but if the decisions are made before this video is exported, I will make sure the grid is updated. If not, I'll pin something in the comments section with some information on the decisions. But I can promise you, the grid you see on screen there is completely up to date as I record these words. Super quickly, before I move on, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone for your support over the last few weeks. And because of that support, we are now just 1,500 subs away from the big 100k. So if you are new to the channel and you'd like to listen to me waffle on a bit more about Formula 1, then please do consider subscribing and clicking that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of my future uploads. Still, more than half of the views on the channel are from non-subscribers. That's not a criticism, by the way. There are lots of channels I keep watching that I'm not subscribed to, but I've been rectifying that over the last few weeks. But that's neither here nor there, ready for a race look ahead. But anyway, let's see if we can hit that 100k this month. That would be absolutely epic, and thank you all again. Right then, race strategy for tomorrow will be interesting. Obviously, everyone used the wet tyre in Q2, and so we'll have a free choice of start tyre when we get to the race tomorrow. I'm kind of expecting probably the top 2 at least to start on the medium tyre. But we might see someone like a Carlos Sainz, for example, go on the opposite, the soft tyre, just so they get that little bit of extra grip early on and can take the fight to the top 2. Now, according to Pirelli, these strategies are pretty much similar to last week, as you would expect. They're saying that you could run a fresh set of softs for 28 to 33 laps and then stick on the hard tyre to the end of the race. That's a one-stopper, obviously. The mediums, 30 to 35 laps and then stick the softs onto the end. Or you could go for a two-stopper and run 2 sets of the soft tyres for 24 to 26 laps each, and then run the medium tyres for the final few laps. Now, I'm no strategy expert. I know, that might shock a few of you. But I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody go for the two-stop, but go soft, medium, and then soft again. Especially if you've got a lot of cars ahead of you running the hard tyres. Those fresh softs could make all the difference towards the end of the race, especially in a very tight midfield. I should also say that as of right now, the weather forecast for tomorrow is for it to be dry, so we shouldn't need any wet or intermediate tyres. What about my one to watch then? Well, there are so many drivers worth keeping an eye on in the race tomorrow. You've got the likes of Sergio Perez starting out of position. Ferrari might have a better Sunday. And you've got Carlos Sainz right there in third on the grid. So definitely watch all of them. But I'm going to go with Daniel Ricciardo. Couple of reasons behind that decision. Firstly, I do still believe that Renault has more to give and could well be on a par with McLaren in terms of raw speed. So in the hands of Ricciardo, I'd expect to see him make up places and hopefully have an epic fight with those two McLarens. But also he's another driver who had a very disappointing race last week and will absolutely want to bounce back immediately. That instant shot at redemption, if you like. And I reckon he can challenge for a top 5 finish tomorrow too. But whatever happens, I've just got to say I am very much looking forward to that McLaren and Renault scrap tomorrow. But anyway, I just want to waffle for a little bit and give a few more of my thoughts on today. When people ask me why I love Formula 1, this qualifying session and indeed last weekend's race are exactly the reasons why. Of course, there are so many more reasons, but days like today really hammer home my love for this sport. It's brilliant. Some of the best drivers in the world driving almost on instinct and right to the limit is just phenomenal to watch. I love it so much and so many drivers impressed me today. Lewis Hamilton was absolutely epic and that lap was just, wow. What do you want me to say? 1.2 seconds quicker than Max Verstappen, who, don't forget, is also extremely good in the wet. All right, Max had a spin or a half spin on one of his last runs, but I honestly do think that Hamilton had that in the bag regardless of what Verstappen did. And for Hamilton, what a way to bounce back from a frustrating weekend last time out. Of course, as well, with teammate Valtteri Bottas in 4th, it's an opportunity for him to close that championship gap immediately. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Points are not awarded on a Saturday. But what a front row as well. Very tasty indeed. And Max was mighty in the wet once again, even with that spin. But is it really a huge surprise to see those two on the very front of the grid? We knew going into this session just how good both of those are on a greasy track. So I don't think we should be too shocked by that. I just can't wait for that run to turn 1 tomorrow. It's going to be brilliant. Bring it on. Has to be said as well, great driving from Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon. Aside from the top 2, easily my standout performers of the day. Well, in the top 10 anyway, you can probably see where that's going to go. And you know, I would probably throw Pierre Gasly in there as well. He was threatening the top 3 or 4 throughout that session. But stand up and take a bow, George Russell. P12 for Williams, obviously out of Q1 and into Q2. And only, less than a 10th away from Q3? Brilliant. And what a morale boost as well for Williams. Yeah, okay, it's set to be a dry race tomorrow, so I'm not sure that car will have the pace to stay there. But if we get a race like last week, he could challenge for a point or 2. But I'm going to forget that for now and let the lad have his moment. Well done, George Russell. In terms of disappointments, Racing Point will be very frustrated with their result, I'm sure. Sergio Perez couldn't even get out of Q1, and that car in the dry looked like second fastest at times on Friday, at least top 3 at worst. So they have got a hell of a lot of work to do tomorrow. And although he did out-qualify Checo, I honestly thought Stroll would have been higher based on how strong he can be in the wet. I mean, he was still P13 and did beat his teammate, so not all bad for Lance. As for Ferrari, I'm honestly baffled again. They wanted the rain this weekend in the hope that it levelled that field out, and yet they still ended up 10th and 11th. I know all of the talk pre-season was about how much they were expecting to struggle, but I did not expect this. At the moment, it doesn't look as though that car is any good in the dry or in the wet. That's a massive concern, and I just really hope for their sake that the full update package arriving in Hungary can turn this around for them. Otherwise, it is going to be a very long year for the drivers and the team as well, and they could find themselves behind the likes of McLaren, Renault and Racing Point in the championship come the end of the year. But we'll see, their race pace might be better tomorrow. They were definitely at least marginally better last Sunday than they were in quali. So perhaps a little bit of hope there for Ferrari. Lots of great performances today though, and I do just want to say, first one of the season, if I haven't mentioned your favourite driver, I'm not hating on them or condemning them to the fiery depths of hell. I do love YouTube comment sections. I'm just picking out a handful, otherwise this video would be about an hour long and it's probably too long as it is. All I will reiterate is that most of those drivers were seriously impressive today and deserve so much credit for not sticking their cars in the wall, and what a grid too. Roll on tomorrow. That is it for this video, but you can let me know your thoughts on the session down in the comment section. Who really stood out for you today and which driver are you keeping a close eye on tomorrow? Now, I will be back tomorrow shortly after the Styrian Grand Prix with the race reaction live. But in the meantime, don't forget that you can of course follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching, and hopefully I will catch you again in the next one. Bye bye.